The more I listened to, the more I thought this could be a great way for delivering inspirational content for my client base.
That's Marie Rowe. She's the host of the Marie Rowe Travel Show, a podcast that's just meant to be, as you can hear by the very convenient, perfect rhyming of the title. And this episode is all about how her business needed a podcast, and now she has one. When you think of podcasting, you probably imagine dull, poor quality, distorted conversations being held between people you'd never ordinarily listen to, even if they were in the same room. But there's another side to podcasting, and it might surprise you. I'm Neil from Podnose Productions, and it's my goal to help you ignore the static, edit out the misinformation, and learn the truth about how to make a noise in your space. This is Your Business Needs a Podcast. Marie Rowe is a lady who lives and breathes travel. She's smart, articulate, and extremely dynamic in her approach to her content marketing. She's got a hugely popular Instagram account and blog, and so a podcast was just an absolute no-brainer of an addition. Since starting her podcast, she's not only been listed on a chart of the world's top 15 adventure shows, she's also been nominated for a prestigious podcasting award and is already considered to be one of the UK's most respected travel podcasters, having been featured both in the papers and on the radio. She's also been interviewed by Trade Television. From a business point of view, this year has been a challenging one for Marie, as it has for all of her travel industry peers and many other business owners around the globe. The stats suggest the lockdown period has served as something of a why not opportunity for starting a podcast. And going by the posts on LinkedIn, record numbers have dabbled by releasing at least one episode. I asked Marie to tell me all about her decision to start a podcast, and she told me it was indeed also inspired by wanting to fill her spare time during lockdown.
And podcasts are becoming so popular, I was already aware, but they're listening and I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of ideas and inspiration and things that I want to be able to tell people about. But I want to provide inspiration on topics that people only have to subscribe to or listen to if that is something that they're interested in. And there's a lot of content or things that I want to talk about that I wouldn't necessarily put on my Facebook page because they might not be relevant for everyone. I wouldn't write a huge post about Abu Dhabi, but I can create a whole podcast about it. And it's only for the ears of the people that want to listen. And I love that idea.
How would you describe your experience with the whole process? I'm talking from coming up with the idea for it through the recording, the drama, all that kind of stuff.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm very new to this. I had no idea what I was doing, although thanks to you, I learned a lot. But initially, I think it was important to me that it sounded good. The quality needed to be good. So I researched into a good microphone to get and what equipment I needed, which is actually very little. I listen to a lot of podcasts where there's some terrible background noise or the recording quality is poor. And I know it's something that's off-putting. So I was keen to make sure that that wasn't an issue for me. Once I'd made a decision that I wanted to podcast, it seemed like something that would be great for my business, something that I would enjoy as well. But it did take me a few weeks to really narrow down exactly what I was going to podcast about. And I think one of the things was, is it going to be interesting? Are people going to want to hear this? Is it going to add value? And am I going to run out of content? I got over that bit quite quickly. I don't think I will. The world is a big place. But to figure out how I'm going to be able to do it in a way that inspires listeners and adds value to my business. And your help and your coaching really helped me drill down into the reasons why I want to do it. And everything became so much clearer after that, realizing that I wanted to add credibility to my personal brand or my business, provide content that makes me more visible because I can share it across all my social media channels, and increase my image as a thought leader in the industry. And understanding those things really helped me figure out how I'm going to do my podcasts.
Is there anything that you've learned from doing it, which if you had the hindsight at the beginning, you might have approached something slightly differently?
I wouldn't say I rushed into it, but I did take some initial advice from other people who have podcasted, which is based on what they do and how they do things. So perhaps if I'd done a little bit more research at the very start, there's so many questions I've had since I started. It seemed a bit basic to start with. Get a microphone, start talking, press publish. But actually, yeah, there's a lot to think about. And to start with, you need to decide which platform you want to use to host your podcast, what equipment you want to use. Do you want to podcast solo? Do you want to use guests? Do you want to do it face-to-face? Do you want to do it over Zoom? And actually, given the current situation, I have had to record over Zoom, which has been absolutely fine because there's some technical settings that can really help. Other than that, one of the things I think I might not have thought about so much at the start is what you do after your podcast is ready. When you're happy with it, it's ready to publish. How am I going to tell everyone about it? So to have a strategy for social media is a really important thing. And I think I've nailed that, but perhaps would have liked to have had that a bit more solid at the start.
What would you say to someone who's never actually considered launching their own podcast for their business, or even if it's for a bit of fun that they want to do as part of a brand extension, but they're not sure? What would you say to convince them they got to get on and do it?
Well, the beauty of podcasting is that it can be a great addition to your business, or it can just be a little bit of fun. But either way, you're able to provide content to ultimately inspire or add value to other people. And that's the biggest thing. So I would say you can podcast about anything, but be clear about what it is you want to talk about, where you can add value to someone else, and how you're going to add value to someone else. But I've really found it no different to producing content for any other channel, social media or a blog. The same rules apply in how you introduce it, how you set it up, the content you put in, and what you do with it afterwards with a call to action. I think there's a lot of things initially that people worry about. What will I sound like? What will the quality be like? Have I got enough content? But of course you have, if you're even thinking about it. Absolutely. I think just go for it. But my main piece of advice is learn from someone else who's done it. Do some research. Listen to other people in your industry and what they're doing so as you can make yours unique. Listen to how things are constructed. And there's so much you can learn from other people who have done podcasts or have podcasts. But I think absolutely to get on board with anyone who can provide support. You and your coaching sessions, I would recommend to anyone. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is you can think you know it all when you don't. So the advice and knowledge from other people is invaluable.
If you want to take a listen to the Marie Rowe Travel Show podcast, and honestly, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't, you can find it by searching Marie Rowe Travel Show in your favourite listening app. Or you can just click the link in the show notes. Okay, Google, find me a surprising podcast of the day.
Okay, here's the surprising podcast of the day.
Now, from the very first episode of Your Business Needs a Podcast, the whole point of this bit has been to highlight people who are doing pleasantly surprising things with the podcasting medium. And this one is definitely ticking that box. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of the true crime genre that pretty much everyone and their gay cat seems to be producing in 2020, but I'll make an exception for this one. Talk about credibility in the space. This latest true crime podcast really is, because it's from Derbyshire Police and is all about one of the cases they're trying to crack. You can find the link to episode 4 titled The Michael Pritchard Murder in the show notes.
And before he had an opportunity to make the delivery, quickly ran back to the van, calling to the thief to get out, banging on the door and sides. The vehicle reversed, turning in the road. Michael appeared desperate to stop the theft of his van and its few remaining contents. He stood in front of the vehicle, but rather than stop, the young male thief, sitting in the driver's seat, accelerated.
Well, that's it for another episode. But don't worry, episode 9 will be with you before you can say, "Destroy all Blue Yetis!" And that one is all about launch strategy. Until then, see ya!
Podnose Productions.